This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show.
Let's do this.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 119. And tonight, I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Heya.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
So yeah, that was an interesting pre-discussion that everyone will be able to see at the end because it's no longer a secret. People know I put stuff there.
Not even trying to hide it anymore.
No, well, I never really was trying to hide it, but, it's kind of a given now. I think my weird recording was the thing that broke everyone.
It's like going to a Marvel movie. You know that there's going to be something during the credits.
The problem with that, though, is now I expect every movie to have something after the credits.
Nope.
So usually I'll pop open my phone and Google movie I am watching, post-credit scene, and see if it says anything.
Or you could just stay and watch the credits to, see who all made the movie that you just enjoyed.
Dude, I'm a fan of gaffers. Anyway.
They get to use awesome tape.
They have amazing tape. So yeah, talky words and things about stuff and gaming. This week was a big patch in World of Warcraft, and I know myself, Grace, and Ash have things to say about this.
Yes.
Not kind things.
So there's multiple discussions to be had, but
it's fair.
The biggest one is the cinematics that go with the new content.
Related, there are spoilers for the new content.
Oh noes, I am so going to play all of that content.
Right, but someone might.
Yeah, so insert spoiler tag here. So the new area is called Broken Shore, and it is basically the invasion point on, what's the Broken Isles?
The Broken Isles.
Yeah, those islands
actually
out in the middle of the ocean that we never noticed before, but they've always been there.
It's actually kind of a cool scenario, and I was really enjoying it right up to the end.
Yeah. So there's two things that are happening here. One, the Alliance and the Horde have vastly different experiences through this content. Well, they have vastly different experiences in that one is going to be enjoyable and the other is not going to be enjoyable.
Oh?
I don't even know if I agree with that, but I'm curious to hear why you think one was enjoyable
actually,
and one was not.
curious as to why you're saying that.
Well, okay, so as an Alliance player, primarily Alliance player, I have Hordes on several different servers, a couple of them to cap. And I've always tried to split time between the two. So I've seen a lot of the content from both sides, but I will always be a primarily Alliance player. And going through the Broken Shore and seeing the cinematic for Broken Shore is this very much hell yeah Alliance moment, for me at least. I question that it was intelligence for us to throw a king at a monster, but whatever.
It worked.
That's the thing.
So yeah, I mean,
it's against that one monster. There were just a lot more monsters.
So basically, they're flying on the big gunship. And first of all, these gunships are horrible ideas. This is not the first time something has happened to the gunship that makes it crash. That's a bad idea. Like, these flying gunships are probably not the best idea for the start. A giant Fell Reaver comes up and grabs hold of the side of the ship. And everyone is all, oh no, we're going down. And Varian is on the rope, trying to climb up at that moment. And instead of continuing to climb up, he hands off this letter and then dives headlong into the Fell Reaver, ramming it in the head with his swords and taking it down. Which means the ship is flying off without him now, and he's on the ground surrounded by all these demons. And he goes through a, super inevitable but heroic sequence where he fights demons and then gets stabbed by one. And like, it's cool. Like, I'm all for this. This is it's a cool sequence, and if you're gonna lose a king, it's not a bad way to lose him.
I'm all for this for probably the wrong reasons.
Because you don't like Varian.
I really don't like
I also
Varian.
don't like Varian. I still
Yeah.
thought the sequence was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sad to see Varian bite it, but it was a little silly.
So
I mean, it
now,
felt like something he would do.
so okay, so
Something
I'm just
stupid?
kind of glossing over the
Yes.
sequence.
Yes.
But there's something that happens at the very beginning of the sequence that they're basically, the Horde and Alliance are both attacking the Legion, and that's the whole idea, is they have to hit them from two sides or they're both going to get slaughtered. And just as they call the attack, you hear these horns in the distance, and all of the Horde disappear. And you don't know why. Well, if you go watch the Horde side of this thing, you see that Vol'jin very unceremoniously gets stabbed, like just random demon number 453. Totally not a heroic action at all. But well, we need another war chief. And so Sylvanas calls the retreat to, try and save the Horde. And then, instead of seeing anything about your own characters, you just see the same sequence the Alliance sees from that point on.
So sorry, I'm going to pause you here for a second because I want to clarify. So are you saying that you think that the Alliance perspective was like good and you enjoyed it, and the Horde was the bad one? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to be clear.
Because, I enjoyed the Alliance for the most part, and then the Horde perspective was not really about the Horde. It was just the Alliance perspective, plus a little bit extra scene.
Honestly, that's a less dumb reason to continue the we're actually a PvP game storyline. Given that every single story is like, the Alliance and Horde have to work together, but then they backstab each other so that we can still have a PvP game.
Yes, this was that again, and it was really
It's-
stupid.
It was really stupid, and it made me really angry because it also, unlike many of those other times where, both sides sort of have that rah, 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 like, we have to fight because I don't know why. In this case, the Horde absolutely saw the whole picture and saw what was going down, what needed to happen, and saw what happened to the Alliance and to Varian. And so the Horde, as a player, you're sitting there going, well, this was kind of shitty, but this is what had to happen. And then you see the Alliance side, and the people who haven't seen the Horde side just see the Horde is a bunch of dicks who left us, and now Varian's dead. And they're just, I don't know, it felt like either both sides should have had the fog of war thing and not seen what happened to the other side in game, or else they both should have seen the whole perspective and not just had the Alliance be like pissed off at the Horde.
See, this is like, I'm not going to defend World of Warcraft too much, but like, this is totally in keeping with the original thing, which is like, the Alliance is the rah-rah heroics and the Horde is the misunderstood ones. So
I mean, I understand that it's in keeping with that, but as a player, like, I am so sick of people with their faction pride being dicks to each other. Like, I have faction pride. I have a preferred faction. I like playing the Horde. But, like, things like that Alliance cutscene are reasons why players are dicks to each other.
Well, and the problem is this has happened over and over again, especially on the Alliance side. You don't ever see the reasons why things are happening on the Horde side. Like, for example, the Battle of Wrathgate. If you, as an Alliance player, you think, well, shit, the undead betrayed us. But you don't know what's... there's no explanation of
led up to it.
Right. And even when you go to attack Undercity, there is no explanation of what is going on in Undercity. Like, you're just going to attack Undercity. Whereas if you go Horde side, you understand that it's a power struggle inside of there. So I guess that's the problem that I have with that side of things, is like, the Alliance never knows why.
So that was in keeping with things and sort of same old, and it was kind of annoying and really stupid. But then what happens after that on the Alliance side is possibly even worse. Once you go back, all the leaders are like, well, this is shitty. And Jaina is all on her own going, we have to kill all the Horde.
Yeah.
Murder!
This made me super angry. Like, Jaina is like a cardboard cutout caricature of, like, herself at her worst.
She has fallen to the dark side.
It's not just even, it's not even the understandable rage anymore, though. It's just, like, it really just felt, like, completely false and just fake. I mean, not fake as in, like, she's not being genuine, but fake as in, like, this does not feel like a character. This feels like a cardboard cutout.
Well, and I feel like that it probably would have been better served if we actually got a real cutscene, kind of like the Horde does once they get out of the main cutscene. Like, maybe they could have done more emotion than just, I don't know, like text.
I mean, I'm honestly tired of her being that way. I mean, she's, to me, always been that character who's willing to try diplomacy no matter how terrible things are. And I understand what happened to her and why she has justifiable reason to be pissed off, but it rings really false for her to still be so flat about it.
Yeah, well, I actually always liked Jaina, and I didn't realize that her character had gone off the rails like this, and that's kind of annoying to me.
It went backwards. Like, it went from a place of being a very three-dimensional, well-developed character to being super cardboard, either really happy or really sad.
Kata kind of ruined it.
Yep.
I don't know. It kind of started with Ice Crown. Her in the Alliance Ice Crown, you know, not
I admittedly
cinematics.
Never saw that.
Yeah, no, it kind of started with that instance.
What happened in the Ice Crown instance?
I don't feel like that's quite the same. Like, I do think that Kata was the turning point, because Kata is basically when the Horde murdered everything she loved.
Yeah, Theramore got blowed up, and she became a rage person.
She became the next raid boss.
Yeah.
Like,
there just hasn't been a raid boss yet.
Yeah, like if they're not setting her up to do something awful and end up being a raid boss, I will be very surprised.
That's really upsetting to me, actually.
Yes. Almost as upsetting as the thought that they may be doing the same thing to Sylvanas, and I really hope not. Because we don't have a good record of people staying war chief for very long.
Well, I hadn't really thought about it, but I mean, they're slowly killing off all of the original
the
leaders on both
sides.
sides.
Yes.
So
look, the only this isn't like a new World of Warcraft thing. It's
not.
They don't know how to keep interesting characters interesting without making you murder them. They've never known this.
Yeah.
That's all they ever do. No matter how nuanced they can set up characters really well. And they have all of these like really fascinatingly set up characters, and then once they're there, the only thing left to do is murder them. And there's nothing, and they just don't know how to do anything else.
Except for Thrall. They'll never let us murder Thrall because he is Green Jesus.
Well, he doesn't, but that's the other thing, is like, he doesn't even have any more like character development. He's just magic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not like there's character development happening. His character development is totally stopped as well.
He's Chris Metzen's D&D character, and he will always be Green Jesus and magic.
I wonder what happens. I mean, like, most of the it says a lot to me that the Wikipedia page for Blizzard has a listing for key employees, which says to me that which describes to me a company that does not know what is going to happen when those people retire.
It's so weird because like most game companies have moved past the like mid-2000s Romero personality style development cycle.
Blizzard hasn't changed since the mid-90s.
I know.
Yeah.
They've just been successful, unlike all of the other companies that have been around since the mid-90s. All those dudes are in their like 50s now. They've got 10 years before like retirement is a real thing. And I don't know what they do. I don't know what that company does.
Well, you say that, but hasn't the Diablo 3 team transitioned away from their superstars?
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing about the Diablo 3 team
that game
is
improved when it transitioned away from its superstar.
I would imagine that most of their games improve when they transition away from the superstars.
Diablo 3 is this game that like really doesn't get a lot of press time, but is quietly just being awesome off in the corner.
Maybe they'll announce another expansion.
They're hiring a team for something Diablo related, so I don't know.
Look, we're getting off topic, which is how mad I am at how Vol'jin went out. All right, like Vol'jin did not deserve to go out like that.
Went out like a bug.
Which
it was the saddest. It made me so angry. Like, I love Sylvanas. I am unapologetically a Sylvanas fangirl. I don't even care. Like, but Vol'jin did not deserve to go out like that.
So my running theory on this is that Vol'jin was totally something they pulled together at last minute, because I don't think they realized everyone was going to hate Garrosh as much as they hated Garrosh.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking for a quick and easy way to get away from Garrosh.
Are you implying that the entire Pandaria storyline was made up on the spot?
I am absolutely implying, without any pretense, that the entire Garrosh storyline was pulled out of someone's ass.
Oh, the like Garrosh goes crazy in the Siege of Orgrimmar at the Pandaria,
yes,
which didn't really fit any of the themes of Pandaria.
It sort of eventually did.
Corruption from emotions and
I mean, it did within reason. I'm just saying that once they had Cataclysm out and the transition to Garrosh, I don't think they realized everyone was going to hate Garrosh as much as they did. Because
Garrosh was supposed to be the new awesome leader for the new awesome
in
Horde.
the last two expansions.
Yeah,
but
he was terrible. He's always been kind of crappy.
But you have to understand, like, they were setting up Varian to be this super war-centric alliance leader, and they needed a super war-centric horde leader so that they could continue to have awesome PvP conflict. And people didn't like that, obviously, because, seriously, a basic campfire would have been a better horde leader than Garrosh.
Honestly, I weep for how much story is lost due to their desire to keep PvP in this game.
Yeah.
Well, and my thing is like, okay, this is if I were them, you have Anduin on the throne in the Alliance. Anduin is Mr. Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Put Bane on the throne for the Horde.
Who's Bane?
He also should be Mr. Peace.
Karen's son.
Yeah.
Karen died at the start of Kata.
Those two could be friends and have peace.
Those two are already friends.
They're already friends, yeah.
Like, but with them on the thrones, or the equivalent, I don't know, what do you call the war chief seat? I guess just war chief. But like, you could have peace, and you could break down the stupid faction wall and have a better game for everyone.
Happen.
Yeah, and you can still have PvP with that. I mean, they have PvP in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm pretty sure some people play it.
Surprising number of people play it, actually.
They have to admit that they were wrong.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and they've come out again and again and specifically said that like cross-faction stuff is just not going to be a thing, and there's just not ever going to be that peace, and it makes me batty. Like, I am not okay with it. And the longer that this game goes on, and the more that like modern games don't have faction walls in the same way, and the longer that the story goes on, and the more ridiculous it becomes that, you have to band together to defeat the evil, but then we're gonna go sit in our corners again. Like, it's becoming incredibly frustrating.
It is absolutely the like storytelling ethos of Games Workshop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
we cannot possibly change the status quo The status quo is everything.
And the status quo is, in the World of Warcraft, there will always be war.
Yeah.
I mean, it is right there in the title.
Grim, dark future.
Even though the actual story theme of World of Warcraft, since Warcraft 3, has been
like in violent opposition to that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
some of
been
us
about
remember how
overcoming
Warcraft
that.
3 ended.
Yeah, everybody works together to deal with this bigger, more horrible thing that wants to break a tree.
Which is also a story that they want to tell. Like, they want to be able to tell both the story of a world where everyone is always at war and a war where those people, like, put aside their differences for 5 minutes to kill the even bigger, cooler thing, and then go back to fighting war immediately after that. Like, there is always violence, there is always conflict, and, like, there is never any peace, but there needs to also be bigger and badder, which means group up time.
Well, and the thing is like, games like Final Fantasy XIV have solved this problem by shifting it to city rivalries that are like honor-based rivalries and for pride rather than real wars.
Do you know that if World of Warcraft let me fight PvP on behalf of the Forsaken and not the Horde, like, I might actually be more inclined to do that. Like, that would be kind of cool. But, like, I don't know. PvP is just not, like, it should be an opt-in thing, and it shouldn't drive the narrative.
I don't even mind if it drives the narrative as long as it makes any kind of sense. It didn't make sense from the start of World of Warcraft.
And what's weird about it is this is an expansion where they have completely gutted the PvP system and changed the way it works. So it would have been the ideal time to introduce something new. I mean, they basically are making gearless PvP, where everyone has roughly the same gear going into PvP. So like your gear is normalized. So the difference between, like, beginning cap gear and the highest cap gear is like a few percentage points, but it's not significant difference. So in doing that, it would have been the ideal time to change the dynamic. And most of the PvP is happening in instances anyway. Why can't two Horde teams fight each other? Why can't two Alliance teams fight each other?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So, okay, so that was the first problem that we had with the cinematics. That's one discussion. On the other hand, I have to give them serious props for how good the actual event is that's happening right now.
And including the Broken Isle, Broken Shore scenario, like the cinematics.
The scenario was actually really cool.
Right, like the cinematics made me angry, but the scenario was really cool, including like the thing that was one of the neatest things of the whole scenario is that, in fact, the Horde and Alliance groups are fighting their way through this thing to get, like, at the same time, and at some point you turn a corner and there's, I'm in my Horde raid and over there is a raid full of actual Alliance players, and there's interplay between the faction bosses, and there's, a sort of friendly competition killing a big monster, and it was like a really neat moment.
So the Legion invasion event, WoW has honestly, I feel, had a little bit of a checkered past with invasion events in the past. The last one that I really remember participating a lot in was the Wrath launch event that was an undead invasion where several places in the world these crystals spawned and then undead started popping up around them. The problem was that you had to be camping a location the second a crystal spawned to get any kills in. And the kills, I don't remember if they dropped currency or if they dropped something, but you basically get gear from...
They
basically dropped currency.
They dropped gear and they dropped, like, some kind of stones.
Yeah.
So currency for gear and then occasional random other things.
So it was a fastest fingers type thing getting to the event. And if you weren't lucky, you just got screwed out of the event whenever it spawned in a zone. So that had been kind of the template for past events, and they didn't work well. They were frustrating. What the events for Legion are is every 4 hours, the events change. And for a 4-hour period, there are 2 zones in the world that are having the events.
And this is apparently going to ramp up as the weeks go on and we get actually closer to Legion launching.
So there may be more than 2 areas?
I suspect either they may be more than 2 areas or the time may speed up in between them.
So what's different about the traditional invasion style is simply zoning into one of these zones where an invasion is happening puts you in a scenario. And it puts you in the first phase of a scenario. And simply being in zone while this is going on gets you completion. So it doesn't matter how many things you kill. It doesn't matter, what you actually do. To some extent during phase 3, there's a way you can get more of the currency. But essentially, you can just go over there on a level 10 to 100 character and participate. And you get a treasure chest at the end of phase 2 and a treasure chest at the end of phase 4. And in it comes, eye level 700 gear, which is pretty good. It's not the best gear available, but it's really good gear. It's better than a lot of my character's gear. And what's nice is you can do both these zones on a character and then swap to another character and do the 2 zones and swap to another character and do the 2 zones. And Grace and I have been using it as a way to gear out characters and
and the nice thing that they did, so when this first launched, so it uses their Legion level scaling technology, which means that you can do it on any level character and the mobs scale to your level and you can participate fully, and it's actually incredibly seamless and sweet. And I tried it out right away on my level 60 mage, and it was a lot of fun. And I got some gear that was either not very useful or I already had heirlooms for, and almost no XP. So it was kind of a bummer. And this morning, I think, they hotfixed it, and now the event gives pretty much an entire level's worth of XP if you do all 4 pieces of the event. So it's gone from it's fun and I'm glad I can participate, but I'm not going to do it on any more low-level characters, to holy wow, I'm going to level all my characters with this event because it's fun.
And that's part of it too, is it's actually a really fun event. And there's enough variation between runnings of the scenario that you're not exactly, it's familiar, but you're not going to see exactly the same things every single time. So I have to give them massive credit on this event, even though they botched the cutscene. Yeah, and that's not to say okay, I've got to break this down because Taryn Gregory does a really good job of the animation portion of it, and it's not that the cutscene was poorly built. It's just that I don't like what it was doing.
Yeah, it's not really the cutscene's fault per se. It's the story choices that they decided to make and the things they chose to show in each of the cutscenes.
Yeah, which doesn't make me excited about the expansion.
But the tech for this event and the construction of this event has been really fun and worked really seamlessly. And so even though I'm nervous about the story for this expansion, I'm actually kind of excited to try out how this tech works in the Broken Isles while I'm leveling, and you can level in any order you want through the zones, and that's pretty cool.
Now there's no level cap, right? Increase, is there?
No,
Yes.
There is.
Oh, there is?
Yeah,
yes.
It's 110. But you can approach the new zones in any order. So you get to choose where you want to start each time.
Huh.
And it does the same seamless level adjustment that these invasion events are doing. So if I go in there and I'm level 100 and Belle is level 109 and we go into a zone together, we will both be doing sort of similar appropriate fractions of damage to enemies, but he will see an enemy that's his level and I will see an enemy that's my level, even when we're looking at the same enemy. It's actually kind of neat.
Why do we have levels now?
I mean, that's of course
They haven't gotten rid of them yet.
yeah.
Hysterical raisins.
Like, I feel like that's a pretty worthwhile question to ask at that point. Like, what is the point of levels?
Feeling of progression. That's really all it is like feeling that you're making movement.
Seeing the bar go up.
A timer
numbers get
that
bigger.
forces you to do story things before you go spend all the rest of your time raiding.
Yeah. Honestly, the part that excites me the most is that supposedly these Legion events and the Broken Isle scenarios are kind of examples of what the new world events are going to be like that are happening throughout the new area. So they're kind of doing a Rift-like dynamic event system.
If they go full Rift and abolish the old, faction thing.
Yeah, well, that's honestly the best thing that Rift ever did, but nobody really follows suit. And I was so shocked that how many people fought against it in WildStar.
Yeah,
It was on the table.
Yeah, if enough people had been for it, I'm absolutely positive that that team would have took a long, hard look at it and tried to make it happen. But for whatever reason, there are a lot of people out there who really like their faction divide. And it's completely baffling to me. Like, as someone who absolutely loves playing Horde, doesn't really like most of the Alliance races, doesn't really like the Alliance sort of story, I hate that if I want to play WoW right now, I pretty much have to play Alliance because that's where all my friends are.
Yeah, and I'm on the other side of the coin where like I have lots of Horde friends, but I never can get into it over there. Like I just don't care about the characters, or at least not in the same way. And it sucks that basically like the very first decision anyone makes locks off half of the world from them. But anyway, that's probably enough of that for now.
Yeah, I've been holding my tongue on this.
You have things.
I can hear Tam's contempt for WoW just itching to come out.
It's not contempt for WoW. WoW is an excellent game. It's contempt for complacency. And it's, you see so many MMOs that do, and not just MMOs either, games that do really interesting, creative stuff because they're losing. Whatever the big stompy game on the block is, they aren't that. And so they have to do something else that's interesting and unique and honestly moves the medium forward. Like, Saints Row 4 is my favorite, or Saints Row is my favorite example of this kind of thing, where that isn't an MMO. Because it's like, Grand Theft Auto has gotten complacent. They have fancier graphics and more elaborate scripting and really the same stuff that they've had for years. And people still like it, and they're like, oh, well, it still doesn't have this game, but it's Grand Theft Auto. But, like, in the meantime, you have a game like Saints Row that's been... that couldn't beat Grand Theft Auto by being Grand Theft Auto. So they became something new and even more interesting. And, like, almost all of your quote-unquote second-stringer MMOs have done this. They've done this interesting stuff. And yet, despite all of that, WoW's total complacency gets a pass. Like, if Final Fantasy introduced an expansion wherein all of our favorite characters turned into raid bosses and we murdered them, we'd all quit that game. Because they would have totally sacrificed the story and everything that was making that game really awesome in a lot of ways. Like, a huge key part of that keeps us engaged would have been just completely sacrificed. But WoW's been doing that since its very first expansion, and it just gets a pass. I find that frustrating.
For me, at least, like I was talking about this earlier in the week, I go through this cycle of I'm always playing the game I want to play and the game that my friends are playing. And occasionally those two are the same thing. But more often than not, they're not. Like there's a game that a huge mass of people is playing, and I want to be able to play that with them, and then there's the game that I'm interested in at the moment. And that's the problem, I think, with World of Warcraft, is it will always be the game where the critical mass of people are playing. And because the critical mass of people are playing, people will continue to play it.
But it doesn't have to be.
It is self-sustaining, however.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky to get away from that. And I don't know, like it's sort of turned into, for me, the kind of comfort gaming that I get out of Diablo, honestly. Like Diablo doesn't have a great story. I mean, some people like it, I guess, but it's kind of lame. But it's really fun to play, and WoW is kind of turning into that. I've really loved the story of WoW in the past, and I've gotten variously more and less into it. And lately, I don't even know. Like, I guess I still care enough about the story to get worked up about it when things make me really angry, but I wouldn't say ever again, I think that, oh, I love the story of WoW. It's just a game I play when I don't want to think too hard, and it's fun.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely the place I end up in often, is it's a fun game, and I'll go through these periods where it's super enjoyable for me to play it, and then I'll get frustrated and I'll fade away from it, and I know sooner or later I'll be back playing it again.
That used to be me, but I've managed to break free.
I mean, I don't even wish that I could break free anymore. Like at this point, I made my peace with just occasionally coming back to the game when it's fun and when people are excited about it, and then wandering away when I get bored. And I'm not so emotionally invested in it anymore that I get worked up when people are rude about it, and I'm not so down on myself for still liking it that I'm trying to hide the fact that I'm still playing. So I guess I'm in a decent place with it, but it's kind of mediocre compared to other MMOs that I really love. I mean, the combat is really boring compared to something like WildStar, and the raids are frustrating and imprecise compared to something like Final Fantasy. But sometimes everyone's playing it and talking about it and enjoying it, and it's fun. And I guess I'm happy enough that I no longer feel the need to apologize.
Yeah, I think I've been in that way for a while, because this stretch has been the longest I've had an account active since Cataclysm, and I re-upped my account right before Warlords came out, and it's been active the entire time, and at least once a month I've popped in and played a bit, sometimes way more often than that, sometimes roughly monthly.
I grabbed the time card because with the timing of the expansion, I figure that'll be just about right. We'll see what happens after that.
Yeah.
And it does help that I no longer have to pay for the game with actual money, that I can pay with all of the gold that I amassed over the course of sitting in my garrison for an entire expansion. That makes the choice to be logged into the game and continued to be subbed a lot easier. If it was a financial choice, then it would fall by the wayside a lot more often than it has lately.
Oh yeah, that would probably make it easier.
I know the fact that Rift is free to play makes it significantly easier for me to continue logging in periodically and checking in on that game, because I know I don't necessarily have a subscription attached to it. Anyway, so I know something that Kodra's been playing a lot, and I think several other people have, is Starbound on a server we all have access to.
So I don't know, because I was out for a couple of weeks, so I don't know how much you guys have talked about Starbound, but it exited early access.
I honestly can't remember how much we've talked about it in the past.
But
Not very much, actually. Just because of timing, mostly. We talked about City Skylines last week.
Yeah.
It has improved a lot from its early access. Like, which is not to say it wasn't fun in early access, but it's definitely gotten a lot more to it. Like, there's a lot more game here.
It's definitely true. Shockingly so, in fact.
Like, there is a story that you are following, which is pretty sweet. And, like, good reasons to go explore different planets rather than, like, this is where I get the next tier of upgrade gear.
Although that is also still a thing.
Like, they guide you to the next tier of upgrade gear, but it's like, oh, these stars have the next tier, but that's also where you're going for your next mission. So cool, that's fun. And yeah, like so one of the best parts about the game that I just love is they've added descriptive text to everything. Like, you can look at something and something funny will be said depending on what species you are playing as.
So believe it or not, that was in early access.
No, I know that was in early access, and that was a great part of the game in early access. They've just made it much more of a part of the game now because that was successful in early access. Like, it's interesting seeing the bits where it's like, well, this was kind of a throwaway in early access, but they probably got a lot of feedback that said people love using this feature and made it much more integral to the core game loop. Like, what you are doing is going around and looking at objects and scanning them, and that's where you get the funny dialogue, and that's how you complete the main story quest missions.
Yeah, it punctuates the procedural stuff with, like, personality.
Yes, everything has a lot of personality. And there's a lot of cool, like, it's... Whereas in a lot of other games, you're just going and exploring these, like, barren worlds. Here you're going and exploring, like, other inhabited worlds. And you're finding other cultures and learning about them. And, like, it's not... While you can definitely dig down to the planet's core, that's not really the best feature of it. The best feature is going along the surface and seeing what you can find, is where it really shines.
There's actually a bunch of interesting stuff underground, too.
There is.
Like, you can dig down and discover, like, that weird gnome village where there are tiny little houses, or...
And then you can get throwable
weird
gnomes.
Flesh areas, and where there are eyes and stuff like that.
Yes. I found those on the surface.
Happens too, yes.
There's a lot of biomes, and a lot of stuff to craft and level up, and I don't know, it's really fun. Like, I'm sure if I had gotten into Minecraft earlier, like, if I had really gotten into Minecraft, this is probably how I would have felt about it, but I feel like there's a lot of really interesting stuff to do, and there's a lot of interesting characters to meet. And, like, new worlds. Like, I never really am spending enough time to really get used to a place, because there's just so much more to explore.
So it's been a really long time since I've played Starbound. How survivally is this game? Because let me preface that with the Minecraft got ruined when they added hunger and things like that to the game because, like, no, I just don't care.
So there's the difficulty I like playing on, and the survival, and roguelike.
Yes, how survivally do you want the game to be?
Not at all. Like, no, I don't mind things being hard. I just don't want upkeep tasks.
Done.
Yeah,
They have that.
They absolutely have that.
You can play on casual, which is if you die, you lose a small number of
It
currencies.
wasn't early access for a while. You die, you lose pixels.
Yeah.
You
That's
lose a few pixels.
That's the version that I've always played on, was the pixely kind of thing.
And then they have survival mode, which is you lose pixels.
You die, you lose all your stuff.
And your items, and you need to maintain health, and you need to, like, eat.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
That's
kind of my
playing
thing.
on.
But it's entirely character based. So you can play as a survival character with people who are playing casually.
Okay, see, that's a really good feature, because, like, every other game I've played, that was set at the server level.
Yeah, it's not set at the server level here. It's not even an option. There's not even an option to set it on the server level unless you get into, like, weird hacky stuff.
And, like, it does make it a little stressful for me, because, like, I die and I drop my stuff, and I'm like, please do not steal all of my stuff. I will be back shortly.
Well, considering we're just playing with people we know, hopefully that's not a big deal.
Well, it's really easy to accidentally pick up.
If you die next to someone, well, you just picked up all their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can trade it back.
Yes, you can.
It's a pain.
I don't know. I need to spend some more time playing it, because, like, when I first played it, it just seemed like Terraria with a sci-fi theme.
Oh man, so they have changed a lot since then. Like, there are lots of things going on.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of Terraria with a space sci-fi theme, but it is a very heavily expanded Terraria.
Yeah, like, there are civilizations, and there are, like, colonies on planets, and if you meet those colonies, the colonists might have side quests for you that are procedurally generated, and then if you do enough of those side quests, maybe one of the colonists is like, hey, this is a cool guy, maybe I'd like to join his space crew, and you now have another member of your crew.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Mega Man is a lot like Mario in the sense that it's a side-scroller where you jump on platforms, but, like, those two games are very different.
Right.
Despite looking the same. And Starbound and Terraria are, at this point, sort of a similarly concepted, I guess.
Yeah, I think when I first started playing it, though, it was still very much in the let's start as Terraria and build from there.
Yeah, it was early access, and
Yeah.
they released, and the release version is really different and has a cool story and everything.
Honestly, like, I've gotten to the point where I really feel like early access isn't for me in the grand scheme of things.
Fair.
Other than it is usually a way to get a significantly discounted copy of a game. So, like, I still pick up the occasionally early access game, but a lot of times I just don't play it until it officially releases. So, one of the comments you made before the podcast was that all of the talk about another game this week has been making you just want to play more Starbound.
Yeah, so, like, I think it was Lior mentioned, like, hearing everyone talk about No Man's Sky and going around and exploring planets. I was like, I get that thrill with Terraria, or with Starbound. Like, I go to a new planet, I feel like I have a whole bunch of stuff to do that is more interesting to me than just, categorizing the local geography and mining the local ores, which is what it looks like No Man's Sky is having me do.
So I've played only about 4 or 5 hours of No Man's Sky at this point. I am one of the lucky ones, apparently, that I could actually play the game. I am not sure what was happening with their minimum specs, but it's obviously not true.
So I've heard it's just a direct, like, port. Like, they just took the PS4 code and ran it through something to port it to Steam, and the port libraries
That's
are not
never actually true.
Yeah,
like, we're getting closer, but that's not really a thing you can do yet.
Well, you can do that to some extent with Unity. I mean, you basically just compile it for what platform you're wanting it to play on, but I seriously doubt this game is a Unity game.
It's technically what they say about Unreal, too.
Yeah, that's not the case with Unreal.
It's not really the case with Unity either. You still have to work it out on each platform individually.
So, Tam, I know you returned the game. What kind of frame rate issues were you seeing?
Okay, so my 7 minutes of playtime in No Man's Sky went about like this. Tried to boot it up, crashed before it even finished rendering the window. Tried again, same crash. Booted up my video drivers and updated them. They were already up to date, but I reinstalled them just in case. Managed to not crash after reinstalling my video drivers. watched through an interminably long boot up, just like minutes long screensaver style boot up.
Yes. Yeah, because like that first time, I think for everyone, it's a 10-15 minute star field.
It takes forever. I mean, it's like I only know it hasn't crashed because there's stars moving, but like I'm wondering if I need to press something or if it's broken. Anyway, I stare at this thing for it's probably 5 minutes. And it finally loads the game up. And it has this like intro scene where you're sort of like getting up and your stuff is all booting up, I guess. But I don't actually know because I was getting about 3 frames per second, and the sound was like stuttering as the whatever was going on was failing. And I thought, that's a disaster. Rebooted my computer, figured maybe flushing memory and so on would clear it up. You know, who knows? Got the exact same result and was like, nope. There are 100 games I could play that work that I don't have the interest in spending hours debugging, possibly fruitlessly, why this one isn't working.
Yeah, whereas my experience was I logged into Steam from work, clicked remote install on my laptop since this didn't preload, went home that night, booted it up, had to tweak the graphical settings a little bit to get a good frame rate, but from that point on, I was around 30 frames per second and up and running and happy. And I didn't know any of the catastrophe was going on with this PC launch other than people saying it was a rough launch. Because it just seemed to work. Like there's some weird stuttering going on as you're looking around a new area. But I mean, I'm kind of used to that with MMOs. When you load into a new area, there's a little bit of roughness as it loads the zone in. But after that, like, it was super smooth. So I don't know, like, I know a lot of people have been playing it on the PS4, and they probably chose the better of the options because, from what I understand, it just works over there. So
yeah, I mean, like Inky's not here tonight, but she had the same exact issues I did. Like, it didn't crash for her, but it was just unplayably terrible frame rate. And one of my I mentioned that on social media that it was just completely unplayable for me. And I had a friend gift me a PS4 copy. So I'm going to see, because they are very, very into it. And so I'm going to try it on PS4 at some point and see. But
so my big takeaway so far is for this is for me what Elite Dangerous is for a lot of people. That fantasy of going out and flying around the star systems and, you know, exploring stuff, but my player fantasy was never about flying a ship. In fact, that was the worst part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what basically took me out of the equation for Elite Dangerous, because I didn't want to have to learn how to fly that ship.
Yeah.
And even more so, I don't want to have to learn how to fly the Star Citizen ship, because from what I understand, it's even more detailed than Elite Dangerous.
It is, but it's also less difficult, I find.
Okay. But anyway, like, that was the worst part of it. Like, I wanted arcade flight.
Yeah.
And that's what No Man's Sky gives me. And it devotes the bulk of the time to the part that I really find enjoyable, which is roaming around these planets looking for interesting things.
I'm endlessly amused by how salty hardcore Elite Dangerous players are that other people like No Man's Sky.
Really?
It's hilarious to me.
But I think that's the dividing line. It's like, is your player fantasy that you want to fly a spaceship?
Yeah.
If so, then Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous, those are games for you. If your player fantasy is that you want a Star Trek away mission simulator, then that's probably No Man's Sky or other games in that same genre. Because, like, the planetary mission side of things seems really fun. And for me right now, this game is very much Interstellar Skyrim, or at least how I play Skyrim, which is roam around, look for things on the horizon, go off, see what's there when you get there. The part that I've gotten shockingly into that I didn't realize I would get into is I think right now there are 3 alien civilizations, and you find them off and on in these little outposts, but you can't speak any of their language by start. And in fact, like the first Gek that I ran into, which is one of these races, I lost faction because one of the options was to pat them on the head, and they did not like that. But since then, I've become best friends with the Gek, even though I can't really speak their language. And there are these Rosetta Stone type obelisk things that you can find rarely that will teach you a single word at a time. And because of those, I've been able to respond to a few statements that people have made, which allow me to learn additional words, and slowly I'm piecing together the language. Like, I was really excited when earlier this evening I got my first sentence fragment that made sense. Like, there was still a bunch of gobbledygook before and after, but there was a 5-word sequence that made sense to me. There's just a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do yet as well. But I think the biggest moment for me was the first time I repaired my ship and I pushed off the planet and pointed up at the stars, or at least the sky, and I watched the horizon getting darker and darker and darker until finally I broke free of the atmosphere and could see stars, and just flew off the planet. And that was just cool, like that sequence of exiting a planet. And like it's all manual, like it takes a large amount of time. And the big takeaway that I would have on that aspect is to expect EverQuest type travel times. It takes a long time to move around. There was a destination that I was headed towards on a planet, and it estimated 30 minutes, and it seriously took me 30 minutes to get to that side of the planet to arrive at the destination I was trying to hit. So that's going to be tedium for a lot of people, but I was enjoying it because I was seeing all sorts of interesting things on the way. The only frustrating thing for me is that, much like I did not like the survival aspect of Minecraft once it was put in, this is a game that you are constantly trying to survive. Like, you have to be doing stuff to make sure you can survive out in these environments. So you're always having to charge your environmental suit, or your shielding, or you're having to recharge your mining laser, or all these different things that you have to do to just keep. There's an upkeep. Surviving. Yeah, there's an upkeep portion to it. So you're constantly having to go out and find more fuel, or more carbon, or more silicates, or more zinc to fuel and power and repair certain things, just so you can keep exploring. Because for the most part, I have yet to land on a single planet that is even reasonably inhabitable. The one that I am on currently has nighttime temperatures of negative 75 degrees Celsius. The one I was on before that had daytime temperatures of, I want to say, 94 Celsius.
Wow.
Yeah, so
pretty hot.
Pretty hot, yeah. So that just shreds your environmental and life support systems. So you're constantly having to, go gather resources to charge those up so you can keep exploring. Every time you can use once you've repaired your ship, you can use your ship as a faster, safer way to travel around the planet. But every time you push up, you're consuming thruster fuel, so you're having to constantly refuel by gathering resources around you. So in order to do even the simplest things, it takes a lot of effort, and you have super limited inventory. So like, your ship has, I want to say 15, 16 inventory slots, but most of those are already taken up by thrusters and weapons. And so basically think hard mount points in MechWarrior Battletech type games, but you can also store cargo in them. So that's 16 slots period. So if that's anything in those slots, and your exosuit has, I don't know, around 10 or so when you start off, that you can carry around minerals and such. So you have very limited space to store this. So you're basically thinking go out and acquire this one thing that I need to do this one thing right now.
So does that mean like you can't go on like sort of long explorations and like long hauls?
It's really hard.
Is there a way to expand your inventory?
Yes, there are drop pods that you can find, and each one allows you to expand your inventory by a single spot. It basically teaches your exosuit how to carry more stuff. I don't know how to do it on a ship. I think the only way on ships is to upgrade your ship. And when you upgrade your ship, you're like literally like trading off a car at a used car dealership. You have to grab whatever you want from your previous vehicle and move it immediately to the new vehicle, or you can't use it anymore. It goes away.
Interesting.
So, like a hermit crab, you're constantly shifting, ships. So there's a lot of interesting things going on there, and there's going to be some interesting gameplay. The thing that happened tonight is I did not realize that I could scan creatures until Dalian told me how to scan creatures. So there's a lot of that going on where it does not necessarily message everything that you need to do.
Okay, have you played Elite Dangerous?
I have played Elite Dangerous at a con in a demo. So that means I did a dogfighting sim, essentially. I've not played the real Elite Dangerous game.
Okay, I'm actually curious. It's interesting because the dogfighting sim actually almost put me off of Elite Dangerous, but then I played it and was like, oh, this is actually a very different game. I am curious if it messages better than Elite Dangerous, because Elite Dangerous messages terribly.
That's a real low bar there.
Well, I think that the big thing that it's got going for it is it's just got much simpler controls. Had I gone into the key binding section, I would have known all these things, but I didn't.
My concern is actually not about controls. My concern is about what do I do in this game and how do I make it happen? Because that is something Elite Dangerous is bad at. And based on, I didn't even know I could scan animals, it sounds like this game might not be great shakes at it either.
So, to some extent, it does an okay job because, the scanning of animals is a totally optional path.
Okay.
It's a great source of credits because you basically get money for, turning in your explorations.
Okay.
But that's totally side to the core mechanic of moving around in this universe. In your first camp that you essentially find, there is this orb there, and if you go over and talk to it, it says something to the effect of the orb, wants to guide you. Do you accept its guidance? And if you say yes, it highlights an objective that you should go to. If you say no, I think you're completely on your own. That's basically, do you want some help or no help at all? And where the orb wants you to go is basically your first connection to the galactic network that, allows you to, do trade and, turn in your discoveries and things like that. Okay. It also leads to you learning hyperdrive, how to build a hyperdrive and fit it in your ship. So those are really important things that allow you to leave your star system, but the scanning of stuff is, it's just totally up to you. If you want to do it, you can get 100% on every planet by finding everything that's there, which seems like madness because there's so many planets.
Yeah, that's the other thing. How valuable do you feel the size of the universe is to the gameplay?
I've played 4 hours and I'm still on the second planet, and I am still. I feel like I've not even scratched the surface of that planet.
Yeah. I feel like I'm not sure what the selling point is of the way that they've constructed that universe, but I've seen enough people talk about running into stuff that other folks have named or found that it makes me less interested in the game. It seems like it would be really fun to wander around and explore this world, but I don't want to really play a game where I can be wandering around and find somebody's planet dick butt.
I think you may be able to turn off the online component.
So, about that, there's been a bit of a kerfluffle this week about whether or not that game has an online component, really.
You will never
Yes,
see another
I did
player.
hear about this too.
Like, you see people flying around to the sky, but they're just NPCs, and you'll never actually see another player. But there's a thing that shows if you're online or not, and I think that's basically you're submitting your discoveries to the server, but I question how that really works, because I had a situation happen where there are these save kiosks, essentially, and it saves the game. And I didn't realize that was really all you had to do to save the game. Like, that was the only way of saving a game. So I was playing, and I had just hit one of those things, and then I turned in a bunch of planets and to get the discovery and the credits for it. Well, I launched the game later and realized that, I hadn't hit the save point after doing that, and all of my discoveries weren't turned in, and I had to turn them in again. So if those are only happening on a local save file, I don't know how discoveries really can work. Like, genuinely work.
At this point, I'm not sure anyone actually knows.
Yeah. I've not encountered anything put there or identified as being discovered by another player. But I've not left much of my immediate neighborhood. And I don't know at what point I'm supposed to run into other people.
I mean, if the claimed size of the galaxy is accurate, never.
Well, and I mean, if I keep, inching my way across the universe like I'm doing right now, it may be forever. Like, I have no real desire to go on a mad journey to the center of the universe. Like, that's not what interests me in this game. What interests me is wandering around these planets, because, like, really, you have interesting characters. I mean, not characters, but, like, critters that you encounter. Like, it's basically Spore-style creations, and I thought Spore critters were really cool. I have fed a lot of really weird-looking wildlife that now follows me around the planet because they're my friend. So
I guess the kerfluffle was that even people who wanted to see each other and attempted to could not actually do so. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like two people realized, determined that they were both, like, could get to the same planet, and they both went there and, like, didn't even see the same weather and stuff. So
A few more people have tested it since then. It seems to be not really a thing.
What do you mean?
That seems like the worst of both possible worlds.
Yeah, like,
I have no idea.
I didn't care about the online component. I just wanted, I wanted the space game for me when Elite Dangerous didn't seem to be and Star Citizen didn't seem to be. And this seems to be it. Like, I mean, I'm enjoying myself. It absolutely causes me to lose time. Like, the first night I played for about 2 hours, and before pulling myself away to do something else, and I thought I had been in playing 10-15 minutes, and 2 hours evaporated. So, at least for me, that's a good sign usually. It's a dangerous sign, because that happens to me with, like, 4X games where I end up spending an entire day doing just one more turn. But I like it. I mean, I think it's one of those games that people are either going to like or they're not going to like, and that's entirely independent about whether or not they can actually play it. And that's the initial hurdle, is whether or not it will run on your machine. And that part seems super random as to whose machines can run it and whose can't. Because it runs perfectly reasonable well on my laptop and my desktop, but I'm pretty sure your machine, Tam, beats both of those in raw specs.
How much does this trigger your Minecraft itch?
It's a similar...
Can you?
No, you can't build. Like, the exploration aspect of Minecraft is totally there, but it's a different game for me. Like, it's not really Minecraft-y because I can't build. I can't base build.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I do in Minecraft most of the time, is I build elaborate bases. And honestly, I think it would just be sheer madness if you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, What I am hoping for when I get a chance to play it is I want to fly around in a cool ship. I want to explore pretty looking planets, and I want to hear neat tunes.
The music is amazing.
I've heard the music is great. I mean, I would like to play Elite Dangerous without everything that comes with playing Elite Dangerous, including, like, every time I log into that game, being like, all right, what am I even going to try to start to think about doing?
So the big thing that you get from exploration is, as you find abandoned tech, a lot of times it will teach you how to build things. And that becomes, or at least for me, my driving goal is to find things that I can use to upgrade myself and then gather the materials to build that thing, which allows me to stay out longer or, take less damage from the environment. There are ways to kind of explore more safely, namely that if you can find an underground cave system, you're usually shielded from whatever surface environmental problems there are. So, the temperature variance isn't as bad down there. The other super interesting thing for me was when I was flying down to the surface of the second planet, I had to be super careful and take a very, very, very slight angle in, or I would absolutely start burning up in the atmosphere. I mean, which makes total sense, but I thought it was cool that it was in the game. You can't just dive straight into an atmosphere.
Is there like cool... One of the coolest things I saw in the trailer was that shot where you leave atmosphere, join up with your like wing of fighters, and go into a big space battle with capital ships and stuff.
So that supposedly happens,
Okay.
but it is NPC factions fighting each other. And if you are friendly with one of the factions, I think you can help them deal with the fight. Like right now, I'm really friendly with the Gek, so if I were to run into a battle between the Gek and whatever the AI collective type is, I could absolutely help them survive that battle, I think.
Gotcha.
And then I would be like, every time I took down one of the enemies in that scenario, I would probably be losing faction with the AI collective and gaining faction with the Gek. And they're like, it's not a dead world, because there are constantly, planes ships flying overhead, because there's like all these little outposts that are for this other race that you're trying to learn how to, coexist with.
Okay, so it's not really like you're alone in space, wandering these mostly barren planets.
No, they're not barren. They're like either they have all these former settlements or active outposts. And you're kind of limited to what you can do, but like if you learn how to speak the language, you can do more things with these people. Also, if you run across someone else, beside their ship, you can say, hey, I like your ship. I want to put an offer on it, and buy the ship from them. And at that point, you basically swap ships with this other person. And some of them are really weird looking. Like there was one that was almost B-Wing-like that landed down, and the wing was out to the side, or the long wing was out to the side, and it folded straight up, kind of like the wings of the Imperial shuttlecraft, but there was just one of them. So there's some interesting designs.
So do different ships operate differently?
I don't know. I've had two ships. I've had my starter ship, which is this crappy little shuttle-looking thing, and then the pre-order ship looks a lot like a Viper from... Well, it's kind of like this weird cross between a Viper and an X-Wing. And it's only slightly better than the original ship. It maneuvers a little better, though. Or at least it feels like it maneuvers a little better. So I know there are things you can build that make your ship turn faster, or, can roll more smoothly, can survive diving through the atmosphere at a sharper angle. But these are all techs that you're going to have to find and then go gather the resources to build it and then outfit your ship with it. And some of those resources you'll either have to find through abandoned cargo or purchased from the Galactic Network or even crafted. Like some of them you can find a craft or a pattern for and then craft the resource, and then it becomes a subcomponent of another assembly.
Is the Galactic market AI driven, or is that like a player exchange market?
It's AI driven. Like, so for all intents and purposes, other than the naming thing, I have not seen any evidence that other players are affecting my gameplay.
Okay.
So the Galactic market is weird. It's localized to certain hubs. So you have to first go find a hub that has a trading platform. And then at that trading platform, they will be buying different resources at different prices. And it will tell you plus or minus as to whether or not this is better or worse than what the galactic average is for this item. So in theory, you could make money if you knew how to travel between two different outposts. One that was selling an item at a lower rate and one that was buying the same item at a higher rate. And you could ferry stuff back and forth between them and make money that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do the same thing where, so somebody may be buying gold at a just insane rate. And in that case, that would be, awesome. You'd go sell the gold there. So there's a lot of gameplay like that, but it's not necessarily that the game is pushing you in that direction. It's just, here's this world, go make what you want of it. And that's why I said, for me, it's kind of Interstellar Skyrim, because that's how I play Skyrim. I roam around and I usually don't do the quests, and oftentimes have cleared out an area by the time I actually reach that quest.
Yeah,
I feel like it's probably either going to be your thing or not at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know 100%.
The difference for me with Skyrim is all crafted content, so I know everything I'm encountering is going to be something interesting.
This is definitely a game that you're going to have to bring the narrative to the game on your own. You're going to have to invent the narrative as you go. There is no real narrative. This is a tell your own story game.
But you're enjoying it so far?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Played yesterday, played today. We'll probably play tomorrow. It's the sort of thing that I can handle a couple hours at a sitting. Because it's, I don't know, it's kind of strenuous to be watching these gauges all the time to make sure that you're not going to die horribly.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happens if you die horribly. I assume you just go back to the last save.
Now, have you fought much stuff?
So there is a Grand Theft Auto type alert system where there is a mysterious steward on all of these planets that have all these little drones. And we don't know what they're from or what civilization they're part of. But these drones are constantly if you take down a resource, one of these drones will show up and scan the resource, and then they'll scan you. And you don't know why. If there are certain actions, and I haven't quite figured out what causes them, and I don't know if it's killing livestock or something like that, but sometimes these drones will attack you. And if you take them down, more will keep coming, and you either have to continue to fight or you need to find some place to hide out. And usually you can go into a shelter, or you can go underground, and the heat will drop while you're in there, and they will no longer be hunting you out.
Interesting.
From what I understand is if you fight enough of them, these giant, colossus kind of planetary sentinels will start showing up, and you'll have to start fighting them. The positive of this is they drop really high-end resources, and the drones themselves aren't terribly hard to take down. So I've taken down 5-6 of them before I decided, I really should go find some place to hide, because I'm really not going to probably fighting the big sentinel. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there. You find out little bits and pieces of what's going on with the Gek as soon as you start understanding bits of it. So I'm hoping at some point there will be something that explains what these drones are doing and what they're part of.
Now, are you a human? Do you know what you are?
No, I have no clue what I am.
Okay, so like your story is also not clear.
Yep.
Like why
everything in your ship is written in Helvetica, though. So, like, this game is basically a 1970s, early 80s vision of what space travel and outer space would look like. Like, so if you can go into it thinking of that era of sci-fi movies, that's what this game feels like. And it happens to play similarly heroic, walking into the sunset type music as you fly around on the planet. Like, there was this one moment when I was flying towards this beacon, and the song that was playing reminded me of the end of Terminator when Sarah Connor drives off into the desert. Like, I'm flying off to destiny. But yeah, everything's in Helvetica.
Interesting.
And clearly labeled, in fact, in Helvetica. But honestly, we've probably talked enough about that, unless anybody else has anything to add.
Not really. I'm going to give it a go on PS4.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what you think. Because, like, from what I understand on the PS4 side, it just works. Just works. So, another thing that has happened since we recorded a traditional show is Diablo 3 Season 7 started, which was 2 Fridays ago.
Yay.
And I think of our group, the only people playing are Grace, Thalen, and I. Ash, you're not doing it this season, are you?
No.
So, I kind of feel cheesy about this season. Namely because... So the fact that I am playing a demon hunter is an absolute
all playing demon hunters.
Yeah, like it's an absolute calculated thing because I did not think I would have much time to really devote to Diablo 3 Season 7, and I wanted to get the season rewards.
Oh, is Demon Hunter the fast way?
Demon Hunter is the fastest clearing class in the game, I swear.
I mean, it's probably not actually true if you're doing absolutely ridiculous stuff at the end game, but in terms of going from hitting level 70 to being able to do some ridiculous stuff, Demon Hunter seems to be ahead of at least the other two classes that I have played much.
See, I just wanted to play something that was like the opposite of what I played last season, which was Crusader.
Play Crusader?
Yeah.
I think really at the true end game with the best gear, Crusader probably is the easiest / fastest clear, but it takes a long time to get that right gear. Because I was always just a little off from the survival I needed. Whereas, like last season, Grace and I at various points got carried pretty hard by Karth on his Demon Hunter, and watching him clear was just phenomenal. And I thought he's just a really good player. And I'm sure he is. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure he is. But then another friend rolled from scratch a Demon Hunter, and the second he dinged 70 was clearing almost as fast. So it was one of those situations where, if I want to go get the season rewards, this seems like the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it is a remarkably fast class to play with.
It's been
if
really
you
fun.
Don't mind that you can be sort of made out of tissue paper.
It's very squishy.
But I mean, I'm used to playing a wizard, so that does not bother me, and I kill stuff way more easily than I did with sort of comparable amounts of time investment on a wizard.
I'm not used to being squishy, so I am struggling constantly with, standing in something too long or not running away.
That's taken some getting used to on my part too, because I classically played Barbarian and then Crusader most recently. So yeah,
I die a lot. But that said, it's just 50 greater rifts are trivial, and that was absolutely a challenge last season on my Crusader.
Yeah, I'm running Torment 12 and have gotten up to like 56 greater rifts much more quickly than I got to. I think I topped out at 38 on my Crusader last season.
Yeah. I am not sure.
That season got cut short for me.
I am not sure how deep I'm going to go into the season rewards. I kind of want to get the extra stash tab now that I'm seeing how realistic and potentially easy this is going to be as a Demon Hunter.
It's still definitely going to take some investment, though. I mean, Like, I went into the season under the assumption that I would get my cosmetic rewards and then just see what happened, but I didn't have any plans beyond that. And I'm glad, because I've gotten a little bit further than that, but I'm still not near getting the stash tab, and it's going to be a little bit grindy, I think, to get to that point, because some of the stuff that you have to do is either going to be, getting, well, some of the conquests and things are just going to be kind of grindy. So if I have the time and I'm still invested in it, I'm happy to do it. And it seems in a lot of ways easier than previous seasons, but grindier.
Yeah, it definitely seems like one of the things on the journey portion I'm in now is, extract 20 legendary powers, which...
Oh my god.
There aren't 20 legendary powers that I would remotely ever need.
Nope.
On this character, so I'm just going to start, extracting things at random, I guess. But that means having to go farm up all of those items from the different
Death's
packs.
Breath.
Yeah. So, 5 of each for 20, so 100 of each, and the necessary, all that stuff.
Although, admittedly, the way we did it the other night is absolutely the way to do it.
Yeah, and you only need one of each of the different crafting mats from each act to extract a legendary. So
is it only one for extract?
Yeah. So
it is only one. Okay.
It's not terrible, but
that's fine, and I've got more than enough already.
And the thing that I did this maybe once or twice last season, and I've gotten sold on doing it a little bit more this season, is to just join a public game that's doing bounties, and you get a full group of people and everyone splits up and does their own thing, and you will finish a full round of bounties in pretty short order. So it's not perfect. And occasionally I've had someone do something silly or dumb, like turning in the wrong set of bounties so that we didn't get a bonus little cash. But for the most part, it's been good, and people have been variously decent about calling out special goblins and stuff, so it's been kind of profitable too. I guess I've been pleasantly surprised that for the most part people weren't complete dicks.
Well, that's good.
I'm always surprised when random people on the internet are not dicks.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to be accepting of the fact that utter silence is probably the order of the day, but it's still preferable to people being dicks, so I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. This season just had really bad timing for me. There's so much other stuff going on right now that I wasn't really sure how much time I would really devote to it.
I feel like they may have started it slightly early just to get out of the way of their other game.
Does each season have, enough differentiating itself from the previous season? What's different?
So the rewards are slightly different. So each season, each class, or each season, when you get through part of the season journey, you'll get a set of gear for whichever class you have leveled. And that set rotates, so that's not always the same. And then there's cosmetic rewards, so there's a portrait frame and usually either a pet or a banner or some other sort of cosmetic thing, so that changes. And the season journey itself changes some. So
you mean the experience of play? Mostly that set that's given to you is the major differentiating factor.
Yeah, because the set heavily affects, which abilities you want to use. The Demon Hunter set this time around is massive, massive bonuses to multi-shot.
And it doesn't stop you from going and doing it the old way and collecting up some other set that you like better. But it just, that's sort of the easy bit, because that gets handed to you. But yeah, I mean, the gameplay itself is pretty much the same. I mean, there's always a patch and some things are tuned a little bit, but it doesn't really vary that widely. But the tasks that you're supposed to be doing are a little bit different.
Essentially, it's one of those situations where if you already like playing Diablo 3 non-seasonally, the season's not going to give you much motivation other than it's a fresh start.
Yeah,
and I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to start a fresh character and work your way up from the beginning.
And at least for me, and I've talked about this in the past, is it's like it encapsulates the experience of the rush of a brand new MMO. Because for a couple weeks, there are a handful of us that are super interested in Diablo 3 again, and we'll go get our season achievements and then walk away from it again until the next season happens. The big difference now is these seasons are happening a lot more regularly. They're, every 3 months, I think, now is the goal?
Something like that.
I do like the fact that they're continually tweaking the content, putting new stuff in. There are always new pets that go in with these things. There are little new events that have a chance of spawning and giving you something interesting. There's usually a lot of cosmetic gear that goes in. But if, the core mechanic of Diablo 3 wasn't your thing before, the seasons aren't going to really give you much new to enjoy. It's still very much Diablo 3.
Got it.
So I think the last discussion point is something Tam brought up. He's been a discussion about Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy XV, because this I don't know if it started the other night when I was on Voice talking about how I wasn't 100% sure about a K-pop road trip, or if it was before.
I think I remember you commenting on that. And my comment when you said it was that Final Fantasy games, if you boil them down to a one-sentence premise, they're pretty nonsense in general. Bishi Road Trip is not even as ridiculous as it gets. But yeah, I've been playing FF8 lately, and it's reminding me, I haven't had a game with a really great story that I've been really excited about in a while. I've been playing a lot of these procedurally generated 4X games and similar, and I haven't really been playing a lot of games with interesting stories. It turns out I don't remember a lot of FF8, other than how bad I was at it when it first came out.
I was terrible at that game when it first came out. With some gaming sensibilities, does it make more sense?
Yes.
Okay.
With some gaming sensibilities, it's almost distressingly easy to just break it over your knee. But I don't really care about doing that in a Final Fantasy game, honestly.
Yeah.
That doesn't
bother you, really?
No. I'm not, doesn't break my heart. And FF8 is a nonsense game.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It's, aesthetically really neat, and it does a variety of, kind of interesting storytelling pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But it reminds me of, it's from the era of really good Final Fantasy games. And I'd kind of forgotten what those were like. And it kind of makes me excited about It makes me more excited than I already was about FF15. Because FF15 is I'm hoping that it's a return to form. I don't know if it will be, but I'm hoping it is.
I guess the problem is I'm not sure what form you're talking about, if that makes sense. There's been a lot of different Final Fantasy forms over the years, and everyone has their preference as to what style of Final Fantasy is their jam.
Yeah. I mean, the one
How
that
much technology is in it is one of the big things.
Yeah, and for me, it's not so much about the technology or the magic system or the combat system or whatever. I mean, I'm one of the people that actually thought FF12's combat system was one of the best.
I also like that one.
But one of the things that it sort of got me to check out of FF10, and is why I never really got into FF13, was I like to be exploring a big world. Like, not a big empty world, but like moving from town to town, finding out what the story in each town is, moving through the world with purpose, but moving through a world, not moving through a selection of locations.
Yeah, okay.
And like, I remember the world map of FF10 was like the Mario Brothers 3 map.
Yes,
But
very
it
much
doesn't
so.
really have a world map.
Yeah, and
Most of its locations are directly connected to each other, and then eventually you get an airship to travel between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Well, it's a very linear game until you get to the very end.
So a lot of the early Final Fantasy games are really linear. They just are pretty good at hiding it.
Yeah, they just hit it better previously.
Well, I mean, and I appreciate a game that hides its linearity well.
Yeah, and honestly, like for me, from 10, well, okay, not really from 10 onwards, because I liked 12 quite a bit, but like definitely 10 and 13 both had this problem where I just lost interest because it was like it was Final Fantasy hallway.
Yeah.
I like 10 a lot more than 12 and 13.
Yeah, ditto.
I also liked 10 a lot more than 12 and 13, but it was riding on other things I liked about Final Fantasy, even though it wasn't delivering on some of the stuff that for me is really important about Final Fantasy, like the big world to explore.
Often more than one of them.
Yeah.
Huh.
But like FF15 looks like a game where even just playing the demo, I got that or the first demo, the demo that made any sense at all. I got that sense of like, oh, here's this cool thing happening. Like I can explore this space and find interesting stuff in this space, and that's cool. But it's also like I haven't gotten that from a Final Fantasy game or a game in a while. Like there are not a lot of games that are like, we're telling you an interesting story, but we're also letting you explore this big space. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see how well I like Final Fantasy as action combat.
Well, I mean, I really like 12, which was action combat.
No, it wasn't.
It was kind
Really, it wasn't.
Yeah.
12 is select attack from menu, wait for the bar to fill up, you attack. It's just
real time.
Faster than, yeah.
It's funny because it was action enough that it turned me off from playing that game. It was enough of a departure, I guess, from the other one.
Because they did the like active time battle thing, but like my first action is to go into options and set it to wait. Because like I see nothing compelling about a game skill revolving around how good are you at like sorting through a menu quickly.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Your APM matters.
Yeah, it's like, and not even like APM. It's like, how fast can you mentally sort through a menu and click the right things? It's dumb.
Can you remember how you organized all your items?
Yeah. Yeah, where you spend like hours sorting your items just so.
As we saw from the blind Symphony of the Night playthrough, menus can go horribly wrong.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
No, sometimes it just doesn't work out. But yeah, I don't know. Like, was there a wait option? Like, I don't think that would work
in 4, 5, and 6. Yes.
No, in 15.
12, no. In 15, also no.
Yeah, like I don't think that would work.
15 is actually all the way to an action game.
Yeah.
So
it's like maybe one step back from Kingdom Hearts.
And my other question about 15 is it actually going to be like explore this big cool world, or is it just going to be drive this car in a single direction and we get frustrated by the linearity?
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Based on what we saw in the good demo, it seemed like they were big zones, like almost MMO style zones that you could explore. Because like I could pretty much go anywhere in that zone.
Until
There's a lot
night
of
fell.
space there, even for a demo. Well, then you can still go places. It's
Yeah,
just a lot harder.
Right. I absolutely did this thing. It was not something you should ever do. I fought so many airships. So many airships. But really, from a Final Fantasy game, that's what I'm expecting is, like, give me a large zone to explore. Like, I don't...
Yeah.
They don't have to be true open world. Just give me a zone that I can roam around and give me little mini objectives for me to find. Give me caves that, aren't necessarily in the main story arc, but might have something cool if you go there.
My fondest memories from FF7 were was like that bit right after you leave Midgar. And you're like,
You get the actual world map for the first time?
Yeah, you get the actual world map for the first time. And one of the very first places you can go is, hey, there's this, there's a house that you don't have to go to. Just a house. You don't have to go there, but it's a house. And if you go there, it's like, hey, there's this whole, like, chocobo thing. What's this about? I always thought that was really neat. Because you kind of get this cool... I'm doing something, I'm still going in a particular direction, but there's this, like, interesting, fully fleshed out thing on the side that's worth my time to stop in and check out.
I always like it when a game kind of rewards me for not rushing.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, Final Fantasy XV is probably delayed again.
Who knows? Probably.
At this point, we could just all delay it.
What was the original supposed launch date? Not original, but the one that is current.
September 30th.
Oh yeah, no, there's no way in hell that's making that.
Which comes out first? Final Fantasy 15 or Persona 5?
Final Fantasy 15.
Final Fantasy 15.
Persona 5 is already delayed to 2017.
Sure.
That has a release date that's next year.
Sure.
Final Fantasy 15 is
will
almost
probably
certainly
come out this holiday season.
Yeah, it's coming out this year. Just a matter of when.
So it'll come out December 21st or something like that, just prior to Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, the current release date is at least the one they have there is a week after Black Friday, which is really weird.
Yeah. One of the things that I hope makes any kind of sense in FF15, because it certainly doesn't in the demo, is how any of their character customization systems work.
That's, I think, part of what's keeping it delayed so long. It's because they keep trying to figure that out.
Because, man, did I go into the menu in the demo and I'm like, all right, let's figure out what... Nope, I'm out. Nope.
Well, the first demo was like, yep, none of this stuff works. Have fun. And the second demo was, here's how some of this stuff might work, maybe.
Did it work?
It was like an instruction manual for something nobody's built yet.
So that's not entirely true.
I'm not being super charitable.
It was also the structure of that demo made it difficult, because unless you played it unless you found almost literally everything, let me back up. Unless you found almost all of the crystals that they had before you got to the final area, you didn't have access to all the abilities they wanted you to have at the final area. So basically, you don't get to see how the combat system works because you didn't play the demo good enough, which is not great. That demo wasn't very good, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I didn't leave that demo with an understanding of the combat system.
No, almost no one did.
It just felt like there was a lot of shit going on with combat, and I'm hoping if I get eased into it, I will function better in it. Because that first demo is, like, supposedly quite a ways into the game.
That first demo does a better job of teaching how the combat system works than the second one did.
Yeah.
Which second one? The only two that I know of are the one where you've got, like, the big open field
yes,
you're wandering around
and the Dreamscape one.
And then
which ends with the full combat system.
Oh.
And you're fighting the Iron Giant thing.
Yeah, I didn't even pay attention to that. Like, I mean, I guess I beat that thing, but I don't even remember. I think I was still in a haze from the preceding 2 hours of utter nonsense.
It wasn't that long, but it was complete and utter nonsense and not very exciting.
Yeah, it was boring and nonsense.
But yes, that demo ended with the complete combat system all just kind of dumped on you.
Yeah,
so
that I do remember.
It was not great.
Yeah, I remember that part. It was like, oh, I've been turning into, like, cars and clouds and stuff for a while, and now here's an entire combat system. this is probably really disorienting for somebody who didn't play the other demo.
Yeah, I assume they just felt anyone that was going to play it was going to play the first one.
Except the first one was only included with the other game.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't remember how we got access to the first one.
Type 0.
Which I kind of bounced off of. I feel like it's the kind of game that I should like, but it was too micromanagey and annoying to figure out.
They've since patched it. I should probably go back and see if I like it now.
Oh, have they patched it to be like, I don't know, saner?
Well, I don't think anything's going to make it saner, but they patched some camera and some controls and stuff.
Oh.
I really wanted a Final Fantasy XIV crossover for that game because I wanted those outfits in Final Fantasy XIV.
It might happen, maybe.
I think that the like conjured weapons aesthetic for FF15's combat is really cool.
I do kind of wonder if we're going to get a crossover with that game.
I feel like we probably will. I mean, do you want to wear a bunch of black? Like neo high fashion black clothing? Because that's...
And a bunch of different haircuts. Like, that's going to be the part that probably gets integrated. It's a bunch of different haircuts.
Is there really a bunch of different haircuts? I thought they had, like, kind of the same haircuts.
They don't really.
Do they? Okay. No, okay, as I pull up the picture, like, you're right. They have distinctly different spiky boy band hair.
Yep.
Yes.
I wonder if you have to keep yourself stocked in hair gel.
Like that, probably.
Yeah, like, is that just what's in the trunk? Like, they don't have any bags back there.
Yeah, it's just all the pomade in the world.
Yeah.
I already see what's in the trunk. It's jets, so they can turn the car into an airship.
Oh, that's right. So where do they keep all the hair gel?
It
Underneath.
also functions as jet fuel.
Yeah, it's the jet fuel.
All right, that's thorough enough for me, Final Fantasy wise. As far as like conceptual systems,
Yeah.
I've done stupider things in a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the reason why they went and visited Sydney, was to pick up, more hair gel. I don't even know what her name was, but it better be Sid related.
It is.
Okay.
I think it is Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah, I 100%. I don't know if you're right, but I 100% would believe that you're right. That her name is Sydney.
I want to say it was
Pretty
something
sure
like
it
that,
is.
Yep.
It's Cindy.
Cindy.
Cindy. No,
Oh,
that's
Sydney.
wrong. It
No,
needs
her
to be
name
Sid.
is Sydney.
Yeah, it has to have Sid in it somewhere.
What is Sydney? Are they going to translate it as Cindy?
I think they translated it as Sydney, but they're wrong. Or Cindy, but they're wrong. In Japanese, it's Sydney, which is, yeah.
Which is still better than all Sid.
Sid Margrace.
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
so
Sid.
we have rambled on a bunch tonight, and I think this is going to be like a 3-hour long podcast. I'm just saying. I know we got a late start, but it feels like this is going to be a 3-hour long podcast. So, anyone else have anything of consequence to discuss before we wrap things up?
Nope.
Okay. Well, hopefully, folks enjoyed our discussion. We lingered on a few points longer than I thought we would, but I'm sure next week we will convene again, and hopefully Tam will have spent some time playing No Man's Sky, and we'll be able to either second my thoughts or, veto them. Anyway, hopefully you had a good time, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Okay, talky words and stuff.
This is
So,
when I'm supposed to say something amusing,
Grace.
right?
Oh gosh, Grace, what is your spider killing plan?
The normal spider killing plan involves either smacking it with something or finding someone else to smack it with something.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't
I'm-
sure if
Squish it.
in your household you were a spider killer or if this was a designated job.
I mean, it depends on the circumstance. If I don't have to do it, then I'm happier, but I will do it if the situation calls for it.
I'm definitely the designated spider killer in my house.
Yeah, I have to squish
am
things.
also a designated spider killer.
If I am in another state, then my wife will take care of the spider herself. She will not like it. She will deal with it.
I occasionally trap said spider and take it outside.
Oh, that's my mom's philosophy, which is a lot of hassle for me.
Well, it is, but there are certain circumstances where it's okay. Like, it'll work. Otherwise, if it's up on the wall...
Spiders eat the things that annoy me a lot more than spiders do.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I have very different opinions also of like spindly spiders that are slow and kind of chill out in the corner versus hunter spiders that are jumpy and large and like stare me in the eye. Like, no, they need to go.
Like, I can happily watch a cobweb grow in the corner of the room so long as they stay the hell out of my way.
And I'm totally fine with spiders outside. Like, there's a black widow that lives under our drain spout and she's amazing and I'm not gonna mess with her.
Well,
I recommend against
her,
messing
she
with
won't
black
bother
widows,
you.
by the way, because they will bite the shit out of you and it hurts like fuck. Source, bitten by a black widow spider once, it sucked.
We really don't have a lot of black widows here, but we have a lot of brown recluses, so...
Yup.
Yeah, we have a lot more brown recluse than black widows.
Those things are shitty.
Those are the thing I'm terrified of, not any other kind of spider.
They
hide
live
in
in
places
your
and get you.
Attics.
Attics, walls, inboxes, any place where
There
you're
are-
not usually at.
There are spiders in your email inboxes.
Probably. Okay, this is probably more than enough of a sound check.
Yeah.